All right, so when you click the link on the website for the lesson plan template, this is what you're going to end up seeing in your drive. You're going to see a file that, remember, the purple tells me that it's a Google form, and the title will be Copy of Malone CSD Lesson Plan. So if I go ahead and open that up, this is where you'd want to do your editing. And really the major part that you may or may not, you may decide you don't want to bother with it. But right now, this question right here where it says New York State Standards, it's just left as a text answer, so you could type in which state standards for your particular course were being addressed. If you wanted to kind of make the process faster on the back end, meaning like each week when you're doing this, one thing that you could do is actually change this question. So I'm going to do that by clicking on the question. And you see right now it's set to be paragraph, but if I click there, it lets me select what type of question it is, and I could change it to checkboxes. And the reason I'm going to use checkboxes rather than multiple choice or drop down is because each of those types, multiple choice or drop down, you can only have one answer. So with standards, your lesson may address more than one standard. So for that, you would want to do a checkbox. So when I click on that, you'll see that the bottom part changes now. I have option 1. So what I could actually do is I could start typing my standards for my course in here. Each time so if you do standard 1, type out your standard. If you just hit the enter key, it'll bring you down to add in a next option. So you could go ahead and do that. And then, as I said, when you actually look at the form, in that section you would have a bunch of check boxes and you could check whichever one's applied. So as I said, this is going to be a little more work up front because you're going to have to copy and paste or type those all in, but what it does mean is that on the back end, when you're putting your lesson plans in, you would just need to check those boxes instead of typing them in each week. While you're here, of course, if there's anything else that you need to tweak, you can just go ahead and click on any one of those. Now, if you are a department coordinator and you're doing this for your staff, for your department members, you don't want to necessarily share this, like this that I'm looking at right here. I don't necessarily want to share this with the department members because if they're maybe not up on Google Forms, what you could end up with is a couple people actually editing the form instead of making a copy for themselves. So what you might want to do is once you get the objectives the way you want or whatever, you may want to find that file again in your Google Drive, and you may want to go ahead and right click on it and do make a copy, and you could do that for each of your department members. It's going to pop up here in just a second, and then share those files or that file with each department member. That way they each have their own form, so their lesson plans are going into their form and their response sheet rather than everybody using the same one or everybody trying to edit and customize the same one, which is going to get really messy really quick. Now, the other thing that everybody, no matter who you are, is going to need to know is how do we handle the submissions. So when I'm looking at the template, you'll see that right now I'm in the tab called Questions, but if I click over here, it says Responses. Right now there's nothing here because I haven't used this form yet. Once I start actually using the form and submitting using the form, you're going to see number in parentheses start showing up. That just tells you how many times the form has been responded to. But if I click on that, this is going to show me, I can look at individual responses and all that kind of stuff. But what I really need to do when I'm first setting this form up, and I'm only going to have to do this one time, is right here, this symbol is the symbol for Google Sheets. And you'll notice that if I put my mouse over it, it says Create Spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that button. We're trying to connect. So let me refresh here real quickly. Okay, so after a brief pause for technical difficulties, so here we are again at the response tab, And what I need to do when I'm getting this ready to use for myself is, and again, if you're a department coordinator, this isn't something you're going to be able to do for your department members. Each person, once they have their own copy of the file, they need to do this themselves. So you're just going to open up the form, come into the response tab, and then click the button that says create spreadsheet. And it's going to ask you, do you want to create a new spreadsheet or do you want to select an existing? This year, because this is the first time we're doing that, with this template, you're just going to leave it as create a new spreadsheet. Because right now I've got this one still named as copy of, I could actually go ahead and say, like, I don't need all the copy of, and I might even change it from that and say, Mark Dalton lesson plan, just so it's named for me. And then, in fact, I'll do that. And then just hit the create button. And now the spreadsheet opens up. You can see it's got a heading already for each one of the question items or the things that you're going to be putting into the lesson plan. If you have text that goes off of boxes, by clicking in that top gray box right there, I select the whole spreadsheet. And this icon right here where it says text wrapping, if I click on that, you can see it'll wrap that text around so I can read the whole thing if I need to. I can also click off of that so that it's not all highlighted, or I actually could, beyond wrapping the text, I could also align the text, center it that way if I wanted to, whatever. Anyway, I can move boxes around, so if like for instance my learning standards, if these are pretty long, I could lengthen that box to whatever I need to. Now this is where it's probably going to depend on what building you're in, probably going to depend on what department you're in. There should be some clarification or some direction coming out, but right now you'll see that this response sheet, so this is where my lesson plans will be going. Right now I'm the only one who can see that, and I know that because it's got this little padlock here. So once you know who your lesson plans need to be shared with, who has to have access to it, you would just come into the spreadsheet, click on that share button, and then start typing your administrator's name or whoever it is that needs to have access. And when they pop up, so let's say I'm sitting in FA, so let's say Brandon Pelkey needed access, so I'm typing Brandon, there he is, Pelkey. I make sure I pick maloneschools.org, not malonecsd.org, and I just click on it, and you can see it adds his account in there. You could do them a favor and uncheck that box. You don't need to notify them that you're sharing it with them. We'll be talking about this stuff. They don't need to be inundated with emails from people saying so-and-so shared a spreadsheet with you. So once you've got them in there, you just go ahead and click OK, and they will have access to it. Okay, now the last thing you really need to know is once you have the form all set up, so let me come back over here. So here's the form. Once you have the form all set up, the questions are right, they're customized. If you need to have them customized, you've got the standards in there. The last thing you need to know is how do you actually use this thing. Let me put it this way, you do not use it by coming in here usually. You wouldn't necessarily come into Google Drive and click on the form, and then because that's going to bring you in here where you're not actually answering the questions, you're editing the questions. That's not what we want. What we want is the live form. So honestly, probably the easiest way to do this is if I'm going to be at school doing this, probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to be looking in the form, and I'm going to hit this button right here. It looks like an eyeball, and when I put my mouse over it, it says preview. This will take me to the live form. So this is what I actually want to be doing. You'll notice that like if I click on something, I can't edit the questions, but what I can do is submit answers. Okay, that's what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bookmark this page. So I would click that. I would say that I want it on the bookmarks bar. I could change the name of the bookmark, just say lesson, weekly lesson, or whatever I wanted to call it, and hit done. And then from then on, when I come in and I want to put in my lesson plans each week, all I would need to do is right there. It says the whatever I named it. Click on it. There it is. Fill it in. Down at the bottom, hit submit, and you're done. That's it. Okay? So if you have any questions about customizing it, have any questions about how to use it, whatever, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Thanks.